believe it or not, typically the most of the better players actually came from the poorer families. So I don't know if you got like an insight onto how that was done in the likes of Spain and Egypt or not.
I didn't know, but touching on that last point you made there about the best kids coming out of the poorest families, there's definitely something in that. Yeah. I think that the hunger to do well, when you don't come from as much, the hunger to do well far kind of exceeds maybe those who are given everything too soon, too much too soon. So yeah, that point I would definitely say is the case. I would also think that Scotland, what I'd say what we were quite bad for is we always tend to latch on to whoever's doing well. What are they doing? And let's just copy them. I believe you've got to do your research and see what other countries are doing well. How do they do it? That's the only way we're going to learn. But I think what we need to then do is kind of strip it right back to Scotland and think, Spain do that well. Can we try and do some of it? But let's keep it the way we would do it.
Yeah.
Or Egypt do that really well. Can we try and do some of that, but keep it the way we would do it? Instead of, I think by the time we've actually caught up, we say Spain will then moved on.
Mm-hmm.
We'll always be 10 years behind Spain, because by the time we get to where they're at now, they're onto something else.
Yeah.
I think in Scotland what we could do is almost have a little bit more awareness of what we're good at and build our kind of game around that.
Yeah, man, I agree.
We can steal little bits and pieces from other countries. Let's steal them, but let's base our game around what we're good at instead of always putting it down.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you anymore. I've heard that about Scotland all my life, that we're always trying to follow someone and almost chase them. And like you said, spot on. By the time we almost hit a point, they moved on. And what we don't take into account is like, which I was very fortunate enough to work with, where I was in California. I was in San Jose, like right in the heart of Silicon Valley. So it's very multicultural. And I was fortunate enough to work with a lot of families that are from a lot of different places and a lot of coaches. And, I saw like how the Spanish guys think. I saw how some of the South American guys think, and they have like their own culture. And what we need to do with Scotland, like you say, is take little bits from these, but like, what do we have that is good, and try and keep that and add these, kind of other things from countries into it. And that's how we can create something, rather than just trying to follow and chase other people. We're never going to get to, that level. And it's funny because I worked a couple of camps in the last couple of weeks, and, there was some kids that were like 9, 10, 11 years old that were technically brilliant on the ball, like brilliant, like doing some things. I was like, that's ridiculous for their age. That's fantastic. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how are we not constantly producing these kids? Like, where do they get lost? Where do they fall away? Because we are a football culture. We have it here. So like, where do you think we miss them? Where do we lose them?
I couldn't agree more in terms of, we'll always have good players. We've always got good players. I see it myself every day. We've always got passionate players. So the passion to do well is there. The ability to do well is there. I feel as a country, like the first point is, we're always looking for something different, which I guess you've got to do that in order to improve. I don't feel we really embrace the things we're good at, which we've just touched on. And I think, going back to the 2 points we spoke about, America, Spain and Egypt, I think there needs to be a bigger investment in facilities. There needs to be more good facilities. I'm talking indoor facilities, instead of putting a 3G pitch, which is fantastic. But if you're still in the Scottish elements, it's not a great environment to coach in. I think we need more indoor facilities. That's the first thing. I think they need to be affordable. I think they're too expensive. And we're pricing people out the game, whether it be coaching academies like myself, whether it be local boys or girls clubs, whether it just be kids that want to go for a kickabout with their pals. I think they need to be a lot more accessible in terms of financial point of view. And I think, for me, the biggest thing I'm passionate about is there needs to be a bigger grasp on, I think, coach education at the bottom. I think in this country, it's all geared towards the top end, B license, A license, UEFA Pro, which is fantastic. We need that. But for me, the best coaches should be at the bottom. Instead, it needs to be the best coaches are at the top. Yeah,
I agree. And it's the same as if you had like if you have a club, or if you even just look at Scotland as a whole, with the coaching thing you're saying, I always try and say to people, imagine that you only focused on like the 16, 17, 18-year-olds and you didn't focus on the 5, 6-year-olds. Like your focus should be on the 5, 6-year-olds. Like they're the
100%.
next ones coming through. So
100%.
it's the same in the coaching. Like how can someone like myself who was 16 at the time, how can we get, you know, people like that more involved and more ingrained in it and have them help the kids, because that is then only going to benefit the kids, which is then in turn going to benefit the national team, the
100%.
league, and the knock-on effect is so huge. And, you know, I spoke to a couple of different people, like I spoke to Sean a few weeks ago, and he feels like we're starting to get a bit of a grasp on that now. I mean, I know you're involved in it too. Like he feels like there are some clubs that are maybe starting to look towards like paying some younger coaches to maybe take teams on and you know, as well as still have volunteers in the mix and trying to find that balance, which is good. So it's hugely important to focus on the coaching thing. And that's why that's something I want this to kind of do, is to help young coaches, like I said to you.
Because if you think about boys clubs, girls clubs, they're run brilliantly by volunteers. Brilliantly. People give up their time and, you know, they deserve so much praise for that.
100%.
But the volunteers are coming in at a time where it's probably the key years of a kid, you know, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. If you don't instill the good habits, not only in a footballing sense, but more importantly, in a personality sense.
Yeah.
You know, the old-fashioned values about being on time and having your kit and, you know, manners and working hard and having respect and playing the game fairly. If you can't install those things, by the time they get to 14 or 15, they've still got the ability. Maybe their attitudes maybe wavered a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas if you can get best coaches who've got experience or working with those age groups, I think that the best coaches will install that. So by the time you get to 14 or 15, you're passing them through the academy setup and they've got the ability and they've got the attitude to go with it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that, you know, even and we're also working out, you know, with the young coaches over a case of a couple of years. Like some people are better with 5, 6-year-olds and some are better with 12, 13. 100%. So trying to work out like what coach fits them where, which will then benefit them and also the kids. Like we said, we agreed earlier that of course everyone should start at the youngest ones and kind of doing that. But as you progress, like what area do you feel like you give the most benefit? And like I myself always felt like I enjoyed the kind of 9 to 12. Like I felt like that's where I don't know why, I just enjoyed it more. I felt like I was getting the most out of the kids. So like we need to also work that out for coaches and where they go.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.